Hand Grenades podcast hosted by Explosive Customs. Today's special guest, the man behind Cruising the Square, Kankakee, a very quick growing cruise night, almost a dead cruise night.
Almost.
Revived,
Yeah.
thriving, growing, Anthony Vinardi.
Hey, thanks for having me on, bud. Appreciate it.
Coming.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We're happy to have you helping out. I mean, you've been helping with our event, and I know last year weather didn't really allow for us to be able to.
Yeah, we had this really cool idea, for trying to do like a collab between the two events. And me and Guido really worked it out. We had a bunch of people involved, and no matter what happened, like it was not going to happen. Like all these things happen, and we're like, oh, weather, and it just kept biting us. And it's like, you're not going to get this in. We're like, we didn't get it in. So, which was cool, right? You guys punted, we punted, and we still had two really great events, which was really good. Yeah.
Yep. And even, outside of the events happening, leading up to yours and, every time and leading up to ours and, as well as quite a few other events around town and around the area, you're huge on cross-promoting and helping each other grow, and that's like the definition of car community right there.
It definitely has to be a community now. Like it's not like it was back in the day, where you just drive around and find your buddies and everybody hangs out and it's cool. Like not everybody does this anymore. When in the 70s everybody had a cool car, like everybody did. Now it's more of a culture, right, that we keep alive. And social media really does help us with that. It's really cool to be able to reach out to your buddies, be like, hey, this is where I'm going to be, or I'm going to go to this show, or I'm going to do this. And as a promoter, we kind of just use it the other way, right? Here, come to my show, come check it out, come see what I got for you, and we do that with Guido, we do that with the guys from St. Anne, and we, the guys from Mantino. So it works out, and we've started to, really try to branch out up north now, really trying to get people from, the Mokina area, Frankfurt area, and stuff like that. So I'm always pushing, and keep trying to get my stuff. I'm going to push it there until somebody says, no, you can't put this here. Okay, all right, I'm sorry.
I got to say, you guys got the perfect spot, though.
Oh, man, the downtown's a backdrop. It has a great history, with the whole square. It was the hangout, and that's where everybody went, and that's where you would set up street races, and you would do all types of other stuff, and they would just cruise that thing for hours and hours and hours, I'm still a little young, so I missed it, it kind of was closing down by the time I was turning 15-ish, so I didn't get to see it myself, but man, I'll have people every show come up to me and tell me stories about the square, people who met their wives there, like that's really cool.
Yeah.
The fact that we can be a part of that, and that cars come, brought that together. That's really cool.
I try to tell everybody, cars, music, and food are the three best ways to bring people together. And when you get them all together in the same place,
yes,
it's perfect.
It's perfect. Yeah. And, being Italian, right? Food is what we want, right? So you get me food first, and then I'll have cars second. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right, man. If you get, you bring your car and we break bread, that's where it's at, right? It's family, and it's always been like that, even for my family, Yeah.
That's awesome. So, I guess really, what kicked off your love for cars, your relationship with cars?
Oh man, so. I grew up, I was born in Cicero, so I was born in the suburbs. My mom was, 100% Polish from Berwyn. My dad's 100% Italian from Cicero, where Al Capone came from, and I grew up, not like when I was young, my dad didn't really do much with cars with me. All I remember is him working on dirt cars, going to Santa Fe. I grew up underneath the bleachers of Santa Fe, racing Hot Wheel cars, coming up dirty.
I was probably down there with you at one time.
Yeah. My dad's in the pits fighting people, right? So, and then, my Aunt Dottie, she used to own Dependable Carburetors, right? And if you know anything about dirt racing, Dependable Carburetors in Chicago is huge, right? Bob Pierce drove for Dependable Carburetors. Little John Provenzano drove for Dependable Carburetors. So I grew up in the aisles of carburetors in Chicago because my mom and dad both worked for, Dependable Carburetors. And it was like, I just grew up around that stuff. But we didn't, like, my dad didn't ever had enough money to really race. Like, he did, but it wasn't not to the, what he wanted to do. So then we moved down here to Kankakee when I was about 8. The neighborhood started to get pretty bad, and it was time to go. And then by the time I was 12, we started looking at junior dragsters, right? And my dad's like, yeah, let's get into that stuff, So we started building junior dragsters. I got to race junior dragsters like 1 year, and then my 2 brothers were coming up behind me, and I was like, all right. By the time my dad's money was good and we were able to do some junior dragsters, I was already 16. But my brothers were 8, 9 years old. They're ready to race junior dragsters. So my dad bought another junior dragster. Now we got 2 junior dragsters, right? And I'm just like, man, I'll just go junior drag racing. I'll help you. We'll build junior drags. We'll go racing. So we did that. And my brother started kicking ass, and we started winning a lot of races. And then I'm like, you know what, Dad? I think I want to build a car. And he's like, well, let's build a car. So I built a Mustang. Built a little Fox body. We did that. Kind of got all my buddies involved. They weren't really car kids. We're kind of. I look back now as an adult, and all my buddies are all from broken homes. Like everybody's got no dad, or mom and dad are split up, or there's always some story there. Even my mom and dad were divorced at that point. Yeah. So we're just like, it's funny how you find people who are the same as you, and you flock to them. So my dad was like, all right, we'll open up the garage, and my uncle are like, we'll let you guys build cars here. So you guys want to go fast? You guys want to do some street racing? Well, let's do this, we did that. My brothers are still racing junior dragsters. We had a Mustang. We would go, Streetcar Chaos and at 41 and do all the NMRA stuff at 66. And then I built a Fairmont, and that's why I'm a big Fairmont guy now, So, I've been a big Fox body guy, growing up as a kid, man. We used to race drag race slot cars. Man, me and my dad would travel over the Midwest in the wintertime, drag racing slot cars. In the summertime, we'd race big cars. This is how it was. Yeah.
Just racing all year round.
All the time, man. Like, we raced every weekend, every day. Like, if it had wheels on it, we try to race it. So, this is how it was.
That's awesome. So, I actually spent quite a bit of time at Santa Fe growing up.
Really?
When I was little. I mean, it closed, you're a couple of years older than me.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, my dad's got a story about me sitting in the stands and knocked my shoe off onto the concession stand underneath the bleachers. And,
dude, that place was like, it was awesome. I loved going there as a kid, man. My dad was always in the pits, and my mom and daddy would be up in the stands, and then it was like after the races, we go out to the pits and we hang out with everybody there. It was like home.
Yeah.
We were there all the time. And then, man, the team demo derbies, dude, those were awesome, man. Like, Route 66 does a great job with the team demo stuff, right? But all that's inspired from Santa Fe.
Oh, yeah.
They do that because of Santa Fe, and Santa Fe was awesome. It was pretty much where I grew up. So it's funny because a lot of people in this area, we have our own dirt track here. They don't know that I, grew up in dirt track racing. My dad, I've been in, just because they see my drag car, right? Oh, that guy's a drag car. No. Yeah. I still love going watching, a good late model race, because to me, those guys are the baddest drivers right now. They're badasses. So, but yeah, Santa Fe's cool. It
was a good time.
It was really cool, man.
Like I said, I was young, but I remember, my dad worked for Pullman's Auto Body.
Nice.
In Oak Lawn, and so Robert Pullman.
Yeah.
Every weekend he was racing.
Nice.
And, we were out there all the time, and at his shop at night during the week while he's building cars, and I remember riding the 4-wheeler in the parking lot and stuff.
Yeah.
While he's working in the shop with him, and I got a lot of early memories.
Really.
Playing in dirt.
Man,
Santa Fe.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, man, our mom really wanted us to go into dirt racing. She was like, yeah, we're gonna go dirt racing, and then Dad, he was like, no, I think we want to go back drag racing. It's a lot cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just hard to believe. Cause,
now it's the same. Like they're all the same now. But then because to us it was like, oh, you could go racing but still drive to Dairy Queen. You probably shouldn't take your late model Dairy Queen. You could, but
small town stuff.
Yeah, you probably could. Yeah, you probably could do that in Farmer City. They probably let you do it.
Absolutely. So, fast forward a couple years to now, and obviously everything is still racing, still cars.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get to race as much anymore. That stuff where you have a kid, you buy a house, you get married, it really slows that stuff down, and then dad kind of retired. So now his money's not there. So now it's all on me to pay for my own stuff, but, and I'm kind of that creature where I have to be involved in stuff. Right. So to me, it was, what do I do next? Right. What do I do that's not going to cost me a lot of money, but I can still enjoy my car and do some things, and still be in car world, any chance I get, like I'll wrench on somebody's Mustang. I have no problem with that. I still love building Fox bodies and going fast and stuff like that. But I do love spending somebody else's money. That's, my favorite thing.
That's the best way to build it.
It's just so much easier to spend somebody else's money. But yeah, I mean, cars are still life, man. Like I eat, sleep, and drink drag racing every day, whether it's no prep or NHRA. I don't get to go as much, but you can ask me a question and I still know what's going on in the world of drag racing. So,
Up to date.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. That is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's never died for us. It was still, and I really hope that Jake would do it. But I don't. I think he just likes the cruising part of it more than anything. He's not really worried about going to the drag strip. He's been to the drag strip a couple times. He's actually raced the Ranger, in a no prep race before, and had a lot of fun with it. But he's never been like, hey, let's go racing again. It's more like, I think he understands the situation and is like, hey, I'm just happy to be out here doing stuff.
He's got it. It's there. He can drive it.
Absolutely.
He enjoys it.
Yeah.
And you know what? In today's day and age, getting kids involved is huge. And that's actually something that you and I have had a lot of conversations about.
Yeah.
But I know that you're pretty big on, trying to get kids into cars somehow, some way, anything. If it's got wheels and a motor, they need to be involved with it.
Absolutely. And I think, when I first took over the cruise night, it was a lot of older guys with a lot of expensive cars there, and that was kind of one of the, I wouldn't say it was like a deal breaker, but that was one of my things. Like I wanted to make sure that cruise night got younger, right? It needs to stay young. It needs to stay, for the kids, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all still kids, but right as you get out of high school, man, that's when cars become the best, right? Like that's when you're ready to spend every dime that you have to either make it look cool, make it fast, or just make somebody else look at it. If somebody else wants to look at it. So, if I get a chance to work with kids or, help Jake, it's like that Ranger. Jake built that Ranger himself, right? I just pointed, told him what to do, and he absolutely loves it. He loves that truck. He loves it as much as he loves anything else. Maybe it's not your cup of tea, but that kid loves it, and we can still get kids to do that. I just had 3 kids in my garage the other day working who don't get a chance to work on stuff in people's garages a lot. And all I did was sit there and like, hey, you got to get that bolt out. You got to get this bolt out. And they suck it up, man. They take it right in.
And see, that's growing up. I had a lot of friends that weren't into cars. And you always end up in the, they want to learn about cars.
Yeah.
And I'm mechanically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I owe a lot of what I know to, a few people in my life for sure.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I mean, if it comes down to like machine work and things like that, I mean, I'm lost there.
Yeah.
I'll openly admit that, and I'm a lot more of a fabrication or even a body and refinishing guy than anything. But taking nuts and bolts out and putting something back together and putting them back where they belong, I got good at that.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of friends that, for whatever reason, it was a hard concept for them to grasp. And maybe it's because I took some stuff apart and put it back together wrong a few different times early on, and probably led me to getting a little bit better at it. And I think that's what it takes, is you got to screw some stuff up to to learn. But I've had a lot of them that they always wanted to learn something, and people get so discouraged quickly when they don't catch on instantly.
Right. Right.
And so it's not something that you can you can't really explain how to take something apart and put it back together.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got to look at, I mean, earlier on it was, still looking at books and, expanded diagrams and stuff and figuring things out.
Yeah.
Or just saying, screw it, I'm just going to take this apart and see
Just
if I figure out how it works.
works. Absolutely.
But, even now, I think kids have an advantage,
Oh yeah.
Everybody's got a computer in their pocket.
Everybody's got.
You can look
yep.
anything up.
Absolutely.
People want to dig at the guys that are, quote unquote YouTube certified, but we're all guilty of it. We've all gone on YouTube to look something up,
Yep.
no matter what it is, car related, home related, anything.
Mhm.
You can usually find what you're looking for. You still
Yeah.
got to figure out how to do it.
Right.
So,
And I think when we give people a hard time about using YouTube, it's just not justified, right? Because I use YouTube, right? Even when I'm doing the same thing I've done, I just want to make sure, am I going to get myself into something that I didn't think about,
Yep.
right? And here it is. This guy's going to do it, and he's going to show me every step that I didn't think, maybe a step I didn't think about, right? And I think that's cool, like to be able to do that. You're going to know exactly what tools you need when you get in this job. Be like, oh, you didn't put the time in. But if they're out in the garage, if they're underneath the carport, if they're out in their driveway, they're putting the time in,
Yep.
right? It's just that we get to be better, right? We get to teach better, right? So let's let these kids learn better.
Yep.
I think that the biggest problem is, and I'm gonna be honest, very honest about this, is that older people don't appreciate young kids in cars, right? We just want to think they're all here to ruin it for us, right? That's it. And I understand, right? There's been a bad track record with that, but we gotta get off of that. If these kids enjoy these cars, whether it's a Honda or a Kia, like whatever it is that they're putting time into, if they're legit putting time into their mini truck or their Honda and they want to come hang out with you, that means they have a passion, right? So let's nurture that passion and keep pushing these kids to enjoy it, right? Because those are the ones that are going to spend the money. They're going to spend the money, and that's what they're going to spend money on car parts. They're going to keep the culture alive, and they're going to teach their kids to do the same thing, right? And that's how we do that.
And take a look back. I mean, I think back to stories from my dad or from my grandpa or anything like that, and it's no different now than it was back when, guys were picking up a Nova that was sitting in someone's yard and, throwing it together with whatever they had available.
Yeah.
And taking the car out and beating the hell out of it around the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And they were pissing off all the old timers.
Yeah.
So
now it's just cameras on everybody's phone.
Well,
that's
true.
it. That's the only problem.
Yeah.
But we all did the same dumb stuff.
Yep.
We all did the same dumb stuff.
Yep.
It's just we didn't film it,
Yep. And it doesn't have to be my style, but I appreciate
Yep.
anything that somebody's building if they're actually, putting some time into it,
Mm-hmm.
and doing the homework to figure
Absolutely.
out how it works.
Absolutely.
And, you saw just, recently, we came out with a car that we put some time in with a customer,
Mm-hmm.
and, it's not our usual cup of tea, but early 80s Celica Supra.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
we had to shake it down and make sure everything's working right, whatever, and perfect time, bring it out. Car got a great response. Everybody loved it, and it was all a young crowd that came over to that car, and they surrounded that thing when we pulled in with it. And, to me, it's still, I don't care what it is. I'll paint a refrigerator for somebody. So it's, body and paint. It's got to look good, fit and finish. It's got to be right.
Yes.
The car's got a nice looking wheel and tire package on it.
No, it looks good. It's a good looking car.
Yeah.
And it really, it captures a different crowd, right? A different crowd that you wouldn't expect,
Yep. And everybody that came over, they're asking me questions I got no clue about.
Yeah,
I'm not a
I don't know
Toyota
anything
guy.
about this guy.
So, and I told all of them that. I said, you know what? You probably know a lot more about this car than I do.
Yep.
I said, all I can tell you is, this guy's owned the car since brand new and got to the point where it was time to do a restoration.
Yeah.
And it's something special to him. It's sentimental to him. And to me, I might get some flack for this out there, but that's hot rodding.
It is hot rodding. It's absolutely hot rodding. That's how hot rodding's always been, right? My dad and his brothers, it just was older stuff. That's it. But they did it the same way. They had no money. They figured it out. They wanted cool shit, and they figured out how to do it, right? If you don't have a skill, you learn a skill, right? And you only learn that by messing up, right? And let these kids mess up. Let them figure it out. It's our job to make sure that when we can give them some guidance, that we give them good quality guidance. Hey, listen, I want to do burnouts too, but maybe today's not the day. Let's find.
Isn't quite the place.
But let's go over there and let's do a lot of burnouts. I don't care. And that's what we're here for, because we know what's going to get the cops called. We know, when somebody's going to really care. And I just think that sometimes we're too hard on these kids, right?
Absolutely.
they want to do it. You know, maybe it's not. Maybe they don't want a '60s Mustang or a '60s Camaro. You know, maybe they want a '95 Acura Integra. Okay, cool. Let's figure that out
Car's
too.
cool in its own way.
Absolutely. Let's figure that out, and let's figure out how to build that.
Yep.
If that's what you want. It's your. That's what you grew up looking at.
Yep.
And that's how cars work, right? If you grew up looking at it, or if your dad owned one, or your baseball coach owned one, and you thought it was cool, at some point when you have money, that's what you're gonna want next.
Yep.
Right? And that's what drives the market. That's why the market is so weird right now. Because the reason why square body trucks are so expensive is because we all grew up looking at our dads driving square body trucks. And now we want those trucks. We remember those trucks. That's the trucks that we want. We're not emotionally tied to '60s muscle cars. Not really.
Way before our time.
Yeah, no. But you give me an '80s Fox body, I'm in. I'll pay a ton of money for it. You know, I want an LTD. Give me an LTD. Nobody wants those cars. I do.
Yep.
You know, like my dad had one of those. You know,
Yep.
like,
And
you know,
even, you know, I've loved, I mean, everything. I mean, that's, you know, we call ourselves a hot rod shop. And we work on some earlier cars. Cool.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, hot rodding evolves.
It definitely does.
And it doesn't matter what you're building, you know. I mean, it's still to that kid with that Acura Integra.
Yeah.
It's hot rodding.
Yeah.
And he's using the parts that are available with the funds that he has available.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so many of those guys, you know, for me, I grew up around a little bit of all of it. You know, I mean, that's, you know, my dad comes from, you know, a lot of the muscle cars and a lot of the, you know, 30s and 40s type, you know, traditional type stuff. And, you know, my grandpa as well. But then, you know, my mom's side of the family was into a little bit of everything. You know, I've got one uncle. His company's one of our sponsors for our event. He's into a lot of the traditional, you know, just post-war era hot rods.
Nice.
You know, and a lot of the, you know, the land speed Bonneville stuff.
Oh yeah.
You know, and all the early stuff, flatheads, and you know, and it's cool, and there's no denying that. But that stuff's harder and harder to come by.
Absolutely.
And that stuff's getting more and more expensive for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a lot of connections in finding that type of stuff. But his brothers were all into kind of a mix of things, you know, and as you know, a few of them were into imports and stuff. You know, one of my uncles had a Del Sol.
Oh, nice.
You know, when I was little, and I mean, he built that car before the whole Fast and Furious thing happened. And then, of course, you know, I mean, a bunch of his buddies had stuff, Eclipses and Integras and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, I grew up around that just as much as I did around, you know, my dad's side. You know, my aunt had a 65 GTO with a gnarly small block in it. My uncle had a 69 Camaro. My dad had a 57 Chevy. Grandpa had a 63 Corvette. And, you know, my mom's side, there was kind of a cross of everything, but a lot of imports. And they all had a lot of work done. And they were all fast. They were all cool cars. You know, and then Fast and the Furious comes out. And, like, that whole scene blew up in our area. And, you know, it was cool to see, you know, looking back now, those guys, they were on the leading edge of that whole thing. They
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, and, you know, you can sit here and bash Fast and Furious all you want, you know, and talk about, oh, that's not how it is or blah, blah, blah. That's fine. It doesn't matter. It sparked car culture again. Definitely did. Say what you want about it. I'm not the biggest fan of the movie. You know, I was watching Gone in 60 Seconds when everybody else was watching Fast and Furious.
Still one of my favorites.
You know what I'm saying? And, you know, I don't think that movie gets enough credit for what it is, you know, but man, did it really revive car culture, right? And then, you know, hot import nights take off and all that stuff takes off, you know, because, you know, we grew up in a time where we could still read magazines, right? And that's where, you know, I remember in high school, man, we would just pass the different magazines around. We'd read Hot Rod, Muscle Mustang, Mini Trucks, you know, Super Tuner. We would read all that stuff, you know, and we weren't discriminating against nothing, man. If your Acura Integra was fast, it's fast. You know, if that Thunderbird's fast, it's fast. I don't care. It's cool. We want one, you know. We didn't have to have a muscle car, you know. It didn't have to be a muscle car. We'll figure out how to make it fast, you know.
And you can't sleep on the imports.
No, you can't, man. They make so much power now, man. Yeah, they make so much power. So the aftermarket's so crazy for them too.
And even still, I mean, stock for stock.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
the fact
take that old Camaro or that old Mustang, line it up next to a Skyline.
Right. When you think about how much power they make per liter, right? Like they're doing so much with so little, right? And that's one of the best parts about it, right? You know, but at the same time, right? You're not gonna sit here and talk that bad about a 455 cubic inch big block, right?
No,
So,
and the
like,
sound
because
you
I
can't
would
beat.
rather have that big block.
Absolutely. Just sitting there shaking away
You
at the
know,
stoplight.
right?
That's
Absolutely.
all I care about.
But yeah, I mean, we really need to nurture car culture better, you know, with these young kids and really show them, you know, hey, if you want to work in that Kia, man, it's not my cup of tea, but let's do it. You know, like let's you go do you and enjoy yourself.
You ever
know?
been one of them new Stingers?
You know what my buddy had when it got stolen? I didn't get a
Rowdy.
chance to get in it, man.
They are rowdy. We had
Yeah.
a buddy with one, and they were doing ride-alongs at SEMA the one
Yeah.
year or two.
Yeah.
And the only thing they did was put a hydraulic e-brake in them,
Yeah.
and then they'd pack the car with people. And
Really?
they'd go slide the car around a parking lot. They said they were bone stock. They just did exhaust and a handbrake,
Yeah.
and that's it. And
Having a lot of
moves.
fun. It's a lot of fun, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, man, I can remember the very first time that my car went like 12 seconds in a quarter mile. It was the most fun I ever had drag racing, right? The very first time I like smashed the gas and the thing started driving towards the center line. And I was like, wow. You know, I was used to racing my 4-cylinder in our junior dragster, you know, and like now I'm hooked. Like I'm in. You know, I think people forget though how much fun you can have with 300 horsepower.
Yep.
You know, like everybody thinks they got to have 500-600 horsepower, 700-800 horsepower. No, you can have a ton of fun, you know, with 300 horsepower. You know, like my son Jake has probably that little motor probably makes 280 horsepower, and he's living his best life right now. You know, everywhere he goes, people look at him. He drives the thing around like it's a Honda, you know, but it's a V8 Ranger, and people love it. You know, and it's just it reminds me every time. You know, like man, why, you know, my car has so much money in it now. You know, and that car has nothing in it, and it's so much more fun than my car.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and now I'm trying to get back to that stuff.
Yep.
You know,
I had an 88 SS Monte Carlo in high school, man. 305. Those cams were notorious for going flat.
you're
car just-
unstoppable.
The car
right?
was just a
Like,
dog, but it did burnouts like you
Yeah.
wouldn't believe. It sounded good,
Yeah,
and
it made your day every day.
it was fun. I enjoyed everywhere I had to drive,
Yep.
everywhere I went. I was always the guy that volunteered to drive because I loved
Yep.
that car. Most of my friends wanted to ride in that car too, just because it was cool.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
it was rotted out. You know, the car needed everything. But it
Yeah.
was fun to drive,
yeah,
and you know, it was cheap, and
yeah.
you can't touch those things
You can't.
now. I mean,
yeah. G bodies are out of hand, right?
Yep.
It's the market. The market changes with the generations, you know. And soon you're not going to be able to touch an Acura. You know,
Nope,
you're not going to be able to touch. You know, at some point you're not going to be able to touch anything that's new now. You know, F body Camaros are going to be untouchable soon. You know, SN95 Mustangs are going to be untouchable. You know, even the 6-cylinder ones and the 4-cylinder stuff, like it's going to be out of hand. You know, because that's just the way the market changes.
Yeah.
You know, and we forget that. We want to blame it on Barrett Jackson and we want to blame it on all this other stuff. You know, like yeah, they're making money off of that stuff, but you got to understand those guys who are buying that stuff have all the money,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So that's why they're buying it because they can. Let them buy it.
Yep.
You know, you can still build a 4-cylinder. You can still buy a 4-cylinder Mustang and put a V8 in and have a great time.
Yeah, a lot of that's still a rare case, and all of these.
Yeah.
How many of these cars come across the auction block and they're one
Yeah.
of one and blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah 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 blah, and
Yeah.
it's the only one in existence. Every one
Absolutely.
of them, that's the leading thing. Every one of them cars has had something done, stamping and all sorts of stuff. And,
Yeah.
you know, they fall for it. They buy them, and sure, like you said, it might drive the market up a little bit, but
It's not what's killing
it's
the
not
market.
significant, no.
It's not what's driving the market. What's driving the market is people who grew up looking at those cars.
Yep.
That's what it is.
those
And
guys
that-
are all coming into money now.
Yeah,
and-
yes, because now those guys who are 30, 40 years old, they got the money. They got successful. They got the money. They grew up looking at those cars. They didn't grow up looking at 55 Chevys. They didn't. Those cars are already expensive, right? They didn't grow up looking at 48 Fords or whatever. They grew up looking at, as much as you hate it, 87 Mustangs. That's what they grew up, right? Their dads all had T-top Mustangs, and they want T-top Mustang. Their dads all had third-gen Camaros. Now they want third-gen Camaros.
Yep.
That's what's expensive.
You
right
want to
now.
know where the market's going? It's always good to look at the catalogs.
Yeah.
What's available for cars?
Yep.
Roadster shops building complete chassis for a Fox Body Mustang.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
that tell you?
Yeah. Fox Body Mustang is as popular now as the 69 Camaro, that whole platform. It's as popular as that car.
Yep.
It might even be as popular as a Tri-Fi now, as a
Probably.
Tri-5, you know, just because everybody loves those cars, you know. I mean, you see so many GM guys who love the look of a Fox Body Mustang, you know,
Yep.
and it's just crazy, especially a coupe. Everybody loves a coupe.
And I think everybody in our age range has a memory before they were driving as a kid of somebody cruising around
Yeah.
in a Fox Body Mustang.
Yeah.
It's it didn't have to make a bunch of power.
It didn't,
You
man.
know,
It was a
somebody
lot of
running
fun.
around,
It was
just
light. Yeah.
Flowmasters on it.
Yeah.
The cars had a distinct sound.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you cannot say. I mean, the 302, them 5.0s with the Flowmasters or a Mac Pro Chamber exhaust, man, no, that was a sound,
Yep.
right? Like that was just like a sound of an era,
Signature.
right?
You could hear that car from 2 blocks
Oh
away.
yeah, you know it was a
exactly
5.0.
what it was when it
Yeah,
was coming.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. No, definitely, man. Yeah, we could talk all day about Fox bodies. That's that's life for me. And I would
Might
rather
have to
only
do one just on
I would
Fox
only
bodies.
work on Fox bodies if somebody let me, because I just love the way those cars are built. I love everything about them.
Yeah.
And it's been it's been a good ride getting to work on Fox bodies. But yeah.
So back to the kids and cars.
Yeah.
We've talked on, some of the mentoring and
Yeah.
things like that you're
Yeah.
working on doing,
Yep.
and I guess let's touch a little bit on, where you're planning to go with that. Where's your head at with that?
So I mean, we got high school night coming up, right? And I would really like to start. What I want to say really is that we need to start pushing kids, right? We need to start pushing them and make them like what do they do now? Right? Everybody's looking at YouTube, right? They're following Instagram, they're doing all this stuff. They're not reading magazines anymore, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really mean anything if you get something written up. But all these kids want to be TikTok famous, they all want to be Instagram famous or whatever. So let's do that for them, right? So that's this high school night. I had this idea that I really want to take all the kids from the local area or anybody who comes, prove to me that you have either worked on this car or you're a big part of this car or you eat, sleep, and drink cars just like we do, and I got some stuff for you. I want to make you famous, as famous as I can make you, right? I want to push you. Maybe you become something, maybe you don't, I don't care. But at least I want you to know that we see you, right? It's kind of like that old meme, right? Be careful what kid you talk to at the car show, because that was you one day, treat that kid, it's kind of that, right? I want to make sure that we give those kids something to push to, right? Because you can't really do they've tried the racing thing in schools, right? They've tried building custom cars in schools. Like it doesn't always work. Like it's hard to do. There's a lot of money involved.
Yeah.
But why can't we make these kids as famous as we possibly can, right? You guys have stepped up, said, yeah, let's do a podcast with them. Our local Kankakee news podcast is like, yeah, let's do that. Let's show everybody these kids. Wicked Car Mag. Mark at Wicked Car Mag. He's like, hey, let's you guys shoot it. Let's put the winner on in the magazine. I'm like, all right, let's do that. So then I called. My wife works at the Kankakee High School, and I was like, hey, get me in touch with the media team. So now the K's media team is going to come out. They're going to shoot the whole event. They're going to, give this kid a 7-8 picture D, like whatever it is. Like we're gonna make what we can famous, whether it's the car, whether it's the kid, if it's a personality, I don't even care. We'll know it when we see it, right?
Oh, yeah.
We'll know who this kid is.
For
And we're like, yeah, we gotta hang out with this kid more, right? And we're gonna do that, and we're gonna see how it goes, and we got a lot of people on board. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a beautiful car. Just show me that you have the same passion that we have. Just show me that that when your mom says you need to go to bed and you're still looking at YouTube, or or you're still searching car parts, or like that's all I care about, because that's what I do. Even my wife tells me you gotta show your phone. No, I'm still looking at car parts. I'm still looking at car parts I can't afford. Like that's what I'm gonna do, because we're hooked, right? As much as we don't we know it costs us so much goddamn money to keep doing this.
Yeah,
we're gonna keep doing it. Like it just is what it is. I've tossed around the idea a couple of times about selling my stuff and starting over and taking a break from it, but I don't know if I could really pull the trigger, because it's just what we're gonna do.
Man, I've got an endless number of project cars.
Yeah, and I only got
down
one.
on buying them.
Yeah,
at least so I kind of
Yeah.
I mean doing this for a living, it's this stuff falls in your lap.
Yeah,
the deals fall in your lap. You come across all sorts of stuff where somebody's got a car that's just been sitting.
Mhm.
At the old place, we had a guy that approached us one time, and he's like, man, I got this old Mustang sitting out behind my building, and he's like, we're never going to do anything with it. He's like, just seeing if you guys would be interested. And I'm like, man, I'm not really in the market to buy anything right now. He's like, no, I don't want anything for it. Just get it off the property. Like, done. Went out there, winched it up on the trailer. It's missing the whole front end of the car.
Oh,
everything.
man.
Floors were gone. And kid I went to high school with, I ended up, I put the thing on Facebook or something just to see if anybody was interested in it. And it was one of those where it's like, man, somebody could do something with this car. I'm not in the market to do it, but somebody could. And a kid I went to high school with ended up buying it with some buddies, and as far as I know, they're still doing the car, but
nice.
They got big plans for a full-on road course track car out of it.
Yeah.
So That's awesome. Like
Yeah.
now, somebody's garbage is turning into,
Yeah. No, yeah.
somebody's, race car.
Absolutely. Yeah. I only got one project, but I try to, like, once I get some room in the garage again, I'll probably be looking for something else, but yeah, I mean, these I really want to try to, kind of build the area up again. Car culture here was huge, and it kind of died off a little bit. And then I would say the late 90s, kind of the 2000s, kind of when internet started being big and, all that stuff. And I want to bring it back. I'm going to do my part. That's all I can do, right? I can try to go out there, do my part to still make car culture cool, and, I want kids to feel like, yeah, cars are cool and I want to be back in them, because you can still get them. You can still get affordable cars. You can still do stuff, and then maybe that pushes cars to, become kids to become metal workers again, kids to become welders, to wrench on cars again, I mean, I know it's not the same as new car stuff, but, with the technology that we can get now for us older car guys, we can make older cars almost as reliable as new cars, and it's not as hard,
No. And guys spend big money on doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm young, but I'm not a big tech guy.
Yeah.
So I'm still, like adding the whole fuel injection thing to a lot of stuff. Like I'm still fairly new to that type of stuff. But give me a carburetor and I'm all about it.
Yeah,
But,
exactly. Yeah.
The younger kids now coming out of high school or
they're so much more.
20s
They're so much more ready for that stuff, right?
They just understand it.
They understand fuel injection more, right? They understand computer programming more. They, the schools are teaching these kids more of that stuff. I mean, we can sit here and
how to cross it over.
absolutely, we can sit here and rag on school districts and what they're teaching kids, but at the same time, they are teaching them stuff that they can use. Like legit. They're much better. Like my son operating his phone is way faster than me. And I grew up when the internet started, right? Like we've been running that stuff since it started, and they're already like it's their whole life now. Like social media and their electronics. Like it's even if you try to keep, and we do a really good job with our son. We did a really good job trying to keep him, centered on his stuff and not just let him go play video games all the time. But still, it's in his life. Like all his friends do it. At some point, they have to be literate enough to take care to work with it, right? Because now even all their whole class, all their classes are on a laptop. They don't even open a book really anymore. So you're right. When it comes to fuel injection, like Jake took to wiring his car faster than anything else. That was like his favorite thing. All he wanted to do is wire stuff, right? And he loves it. And he's ready. He wants to put fuel injection on stuff. He wants to do all that stuff. But I was like, you're gonna learn carburetors first, buddy. You got to crawl before you walk.
Got to start with what dad knows first.
Well, you're just going to teach him, air fuel mixture real quick. It's going to teach him all that stuff. And then when he goes to try to just compute it in, he actually has an understanding of what he's trying to do, I'm teaching how to check spark plugs, like that's like if I build a car for somebody, the first thing I want to do is take it to the track, right? So I can put a fresh set of plugs in it, bead on it, as soon as it crosses the stripe, shut it off, let it coast, take the plug out of it, see what it looks like.
Yep.
I'll know right then if it's good. If it's good, and then we'll work on tip in, and we'll work on throttle response and all that stuff when we're driving it. But if it drives good at full throttle, I'll make it drive good on the street.
Everywhere in between.
Absolutely, that's the easy part. And we still do that. Like we still, I got a bunch of nitrous buddies, and we that's kind of what we grew up doing, and we still do that stuff. You tell everything you need from a spark plug. These guys now, man, they don't look at spark plugs anymore. Turbo guys don't never take spark plugs out. They're on the same plugs all year. Like, yeah, I've been in there forever, But
you're supposed to change those.
Yeah, you're supposed to change spark plugs. So, but no, the high school stuff is big. I kind of grew up coaching sports. I coached sports for a long time, coached baseball, stuff like that. It was kind of my first passion. I really loved baseball growing up as a kid, and I loved coaching. Right, it was something I could do, give back. I had a coach tell me one time, somebody took the time to teach you. It's your turn. And I was like, that really stuck to me. Right? I really want to do the same thing. And it's the same thing with cars. Somebody took the time to show me. Now I want to show as many people as I can, or as many kids as I can, So I love it when Jake brings his buddies over and they want to wrench on stuff, That means I don't got to get dirty. I can just let them do it. And
just point
and tell them what to do. I'm like, that's messed up. We're done, guys. We're done for the night. And they're cool and they love it and they get to hang out and it builds their camaraderie and, I mean, that's what it's about, man. It's about kids hanging out. Some of the best times I ever had was just hanging out with my buddies in the garage, talking shit to each other.
Oh,
Like that was
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
You know, and we still do it now. We get together now. We still talk shit to each other. Like it's the first thing we do. You know,
Cars just get faster.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. You know, I had a couple, but like it was last year. We had a little barbecue or something at my house, and some other buddies showed up we ain't seen in a while. And before I know, it's 3 a.m. It's 3 a.m. Dude, we started hanging out like 6. Like we don't want to go home. You know, we're just talking cars, talking old days, talking drag racing. Like that's what it is. You know, and I just want these kids to have the same thing. You know, like I could never understand growing up. People, you know, you're like, you don't drag race? Like, how do you not drag race? Like, you tell me you wake up every day and you don't go to a drag strip? Like, what are you doing? Like, that's all we did, you know. And it's we don't have a car. What do you mean you don't have a car? You're stupid. Get a car. Build cars. You know.
Even for us, man, growing up, I mean, you know, my parents split when I was younger,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, there were a few nights a week with Dad, and every other weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and it was cars, or it was some with motors, with boats,
Yep.
snowmobiles, you know, whatever. I mean, we were always
Yeah.
doing something. And one of the things that we loved to do was test and tune at 66.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and whether something went out there, or a friend was out there with something, or
Yeah.
you know, it was just something to do for the night. The track
Mhm.
always had good pizza.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
you know, go to the track on a Tuesday night and watch Test and Tune at 66.
Yeah.
And we had a blast.
Yeah.
And you know what? Looking back at it now, it was a cheap, easy way for Dad to keep us occupied
Absolutely.
because we loved it.
Yep.
We would, you know, walk around the pits and, you know,
Yep.
run into people we knew. Have, you know, Dad would be
Mhm.
talking to all sorts of guys that he knew, you know, or sit up in the stands and, you know, just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Good time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for us it was 41. We went to 41 more. You know, we were a little closer to 41 than 66. Well, I guess it's the same. It's really the same distance. But my dad's been going there for years.
Yeah.
You know, they all came from 30. They used to all go to 30, and then, you know, 30 shut down. We moved down here, and then Dad had to go 41. We just started going 41. You know, I remember that. You know, that was the best time, man. Going test and tune and going hang out. You have to spend a lot of money. You know. Even if you didn't race, you just hang out in the stands. Most of the time, those places let you bring your own cooler, and just
Yeah.
hang out and, you know, drink, you know, Sunny D all day and watch drag racing as a kid. That's
Yeah,
what we
leave with a
did,
sugar
man.
rush.
Yeah, you know. And then you know, like I just don't understand how kids don't grow up in the cars. Like I've never understood that, you know. So yeah, I mean, it goes deep for us.
It is definitely, you can't deny that society is phasing that out,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me.
you know. And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, my old high school, you know, when I was there, I mean, I was at like the tail end. I graduated in 2010, and that was kind of the tail end of
Mhm.
the industrial wing of the school. You know,
Right.
there wasn't a whole lot going on after that. And before me, I mean, they had everything there. They had welding and building trades and,
Mhm.
you know, all sorts of, like, it was a
Yeah.
lot more involved because that's when, you know, people did a lot more with their hands.
Mhm.
You know, and I was through high school in the generation where it was like, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. If you don't go to a 4-year university, you're going to be useless in life. And,
Right.
you know, they pushed everybody to do that, and now the trades are looking for people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
no matter what the trade is, but now like industrial
Yeah.
side of things, you know, nobody wants to get dirty, nobody wants to smell grease anymore, and
Yeah.
have to pick it out from underneath their fingernails and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that needs to come back. And
It definitely does.
you know, I've been invited back twice now to my old high school,
Mhm.
and you know, first time me and Kyle went out there and brought my wife's truck and you know, laid the thing out in the auto shop and let
Mhm.
the kids look at it, and it was good to see. You know, I mean, you get some of them like they're just going to take some pictures and you know it is what
Yeah.
it is, and then they're back
Yeah.
on their phone. But it was good to see a few of them actually, you know, trying to peek at it, and figure out how things work.
Mhm.
You know, and those kids, I'm fine with it. Go ahead, open the door.
Yeah,
Sit in
absolutely.
it, take a look at it.
Yeah.
You know, poke your head in. You know, poke your head in there, see how we did the suspension there.
Right.
You know, how we made that big wheel fit on that thing.
Yep.
You know, and so a few had interest, and a couple asked some questions. You
Yep.
know, and they invite me back for a career day.
Yep.
You know, and I get to go and you know now they put all of us in one of the gyms of the school, and we're all standing in there, and you know you're looking around, and it's like doctor, nurse, you know, and like we need all those people. Police
Yeah.
officer, fireman.
Yeah.
You know, business guy, all the suit and tie stuff, and I show up and I'm dressed like this, you know, and it was funny because, you know, not that I'm anti-social, but like, I don't know how to go up and start talking to
Right,
those people. Like, I
yeah.
can't relate to them,
Yeah.
and you know, so I'm standing there and talking to a couple of the staff members that still remembered me, and you know, you get a few of them that come up and like they're like, oh, what do you do? You know, and like they all had an interest in the fact that like,
Yeah.
I got dirty for a living.
Yeah. Because once again, that's what they want to do. It really is.
Yep.
Like kids want to do that stuff.
Yep.
Let them, like they want to grow up to work with their hands. I mean, they said the same thing to me, right? It was like either you're going to be a doctor or you're going to be a garbage man, right? And you don't want to be a garbage man. I don't. They make a lot of money.
Yes, they
Nobody
do.
told me that, right? My buddies who are garbage men now make a ton of money. They make more money than I do.
And they got some cool cars.
And they all got cool cars, all of them. So I don't know like what happened, but at the end of the day, like even I did, I went 1 year to art school. I thought I wanted to go be like graphic designer or something like that, and I liked it, but I definitely couldn't sit in that classroom. It was tough, and I had to get out of there, and then here I am, go work at Sears Auto Center as soon as I get out of there, fixing cars, and then go learn how to weld.
Yep.
Get into welding. Love that. I loved that for a long time. I did a lot of structural fabrication for a long time. And like, yeah, I didn't want to go. Now looking back, like, yeah, if I would have went to college, maybe I would have went to engineering or something like that, something, to get more technical with it. But that's after I learned how to do everything.
I was going to say that's
after.
The engineering route's not something that people generally get pushed towards either.
No, yeah, absolutely. Which is crazy, right? Because that's the basis of it.
Yep. We need engineers for everything.
Everything, Some of them are hard to deal with, but
yeah.
And I tell Jake that too, like Jake's looking at colleges right now, and we're looking at, I told him, I said, if you don't know what you want to do, the first thing you can do is either get into business, right? Because even if you decide you want to do something with cars or something later, you have a background for that stuff, I said, or we can get you into trades, but it sounds like you want to keep playing sports, right? So see if somebody will pay you to play sports, and and then get a degree, right? That, to me, that's the way to do it, right? I don't know if I would push, I wouldn't push Jake to go to college without sports, because he just ain't smart. I'm just he's a meathead, lifts weights a lot, but yeah, I mean, you've met him. He's a good kid,
yep.
And he's motivated and he's driven,
very personable.
He already knows how to weld. He's very social. Like, he can fix a lot of stuff. I mean, I was building custom smokers out of my garage for a long time because I wanted one. And then all these people were like, "Oh, you should build me one." Okay, this is what it's going to cost. So I just put Jake to work, start welding. And I taught him how to weld. He's using plasma cutter. Like, these kids will learn this stuff.
Yep.
Just teach it to them.
Yep. And without even realizing it, they're going to connect those skills to anything else that they need to do.
Absolutely.
When you can figure something out,
absolutely,
problem solving gets you anywhere.
Yeah. You know what? I remember when I first started my structural steel job, right? When I was learning how to read blueprints and going through all that stuff, took a couple classes, my boss came up to me and he said, "You know what the problem with kids is these days? They don't build models anymore." I was like, it hit me right there. I was like, dude, you're not wrong. Like, if you can build a model, you can follow a blueprint. Like, that's all they, like, why do we get away from stuff like that? Jake's been building models since he was 6. He loves it. Like, it's one of his favorite things to do. He'll hide himself in his bedroom and build models all day, and you can know he's building models because he's painting stuff and you can smell it. And you're like, dude, like, his mom's going crazy, like, but he comes up with some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's right, but it's like, you made it. It looks cool, man. As long as are you having a great time? That's awesome.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I just don't, and I'll tell you what, I actually tried that. I actually tried to throw on one of the cruise nights a model contest. Didn't go over well. But, I still got a couple buddies who are in model clubs. Those are actually still pretty cool.
That, and, I'm starting to see the model stuff's coming back. It's a section at the store that's, it was getting smaller and smaller for a while.
Now starting to grow again.
Yeah, Hobby Lobby's got a good section.
Yeah, yeah. RC cars are getting big again, man.
It is too, and now with, Nichols open.
Oh, man, it's awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. I know me and Jake bought a couple of the drag cars. I've been messaging Justin every once in a while, like, dude, we should throw a drag race. We should throw a drag race. Oh, we gotta figure it out. Well, let's figure it out.
Yep.
Let's figure it out. I'll promote it. Let's make it happen. But he's a super busy dude.
Yeah.
Super busy dude. But yeah, the hobby shop is cool. I love going in that place. Jake loves going in that place, and a couple of our buddies work there, so we go in there and they're like, "Hey, come in. Let's look what we're looking at. Let's come see what we're working on." All right. But yeah, I think we need to get kids into more of that stuff. Like, I'm all about buying a kid a Hot Wheel car. That's why we do kids night. Not only do we do high school, but we do kids night, and we drag race Hot Wheel cars. Like, I have a legit drag race. And Jake runs it. Awesome. And by the time it gets started, it looks like you're at the starting line at US 41 on the no prep night, right? There's kids everywhere. and there's cars going on track. I think last time we had like 300 cars. Yeah, there's kids that you couldn't even see the track. There's so many kids like around this stuff, you know. And I'm about to spend money. I love spending money. So here we go. I bought all types of RC cars to give away. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna give this stuff away, you know, because if that's what it takes to keep kids in this hobby, I'm all about it. You know, let's give. I'll give. You know, we get a ton of money from our sponsors, and our sponsors are amazing. I have a ton of amazing sponsors. They're awesome, and they're so cool with me just spending money. Right? They don't ever say, "Hey, well, what are you using that money for?" They don't care. They just know that I'm gonna work my ass off for them on Facebook. I'm gonna work my ass off for them on social media. If somebody comes up to me and says, "Hey, I need this guy. I need you know a guy who does kitchen cabinets? I do. Use this guy. He's awesome, and he supports the cruise night, and they do. And I do. I talk about people all the time. You know. In fact, one of my buddies, you actually talked about him before with the last show. You know, he comes to me all the time. He's like, "Dude, I tell people all the time to get with you because you promote your buddies." I'm like, "Yeah, that's my job, right?" Like, you know, I tell sponsors when they come, like, come aboard. I don't work my ass off for you.
Yep.
Give me what you can. Like, if you don't like that price, what can you pay? You know, I'll work my ass off for you. As soon as you pay me, I'm work my ass off for you.
Yep.
You know, and I'm gonna try to shove even if I don't use you, right? Just because that if I don't use you, it's because I have another buddy who I already use.
Yep.
Right? I have a couple friends like that, and it's like they're like, "When are you gonna, buddy? That guy was in my wedding. I'm never gonna not use that guy."
And they can't be mad about that.
You know what I mean? Like, but I'll tell everybody else to go to you. You know, like, and that's just how it is. So when I get the money, I want to buy cool shit.
Yep.
I don't want you to donate me a hat or this stuff, right? I don't care about that stuff. I don't buy cool shit that people want.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give that shit away.
Yep.
And our sponsors love that stuff. So it works out great. You know, that kids night is huge. Like, it's huge. The very first one, I was able to convince, you know, not only do I want kids there just hanging out, I want kids to bring, you got junior dragster, I want to see it. You got a dirt go-kart, I want to see it. You know, we had kids bring out like mini asphalt cars, like mini cup cars. Mm-hmm. Oh man, it was so cool. We had dirt bike we had a couple girls with dirt bikes out there. They race at the MX club, and I'm just like, yes, this is what I want. I want other kids to walk around and see kids doing hot rod stuff. Yeah. You know, like, yes, this is what I want to do too. You know, I don't want to just go play baseball or soccer or travel softball. You know, I want a junior dragster. Absolutely, you do, right? I just, you know, and that's all I want.
What I did, you know, earlier on at the old shop, I tried to get involved as much as I could with some of that, and one of my uncles, you know, his oldest son, you know, got big into racing.
Mm-hmm.
And started running, you know, some of the little asphalt cars.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know, and he talked to me the one year, and he's like, you know, we're looking. I told him I wanted to sponsor the car, try to help out, and I said, what can we do to get on board?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, you know, he said we already got tires covered, and you know, the fire suit's already handled, helmet's already done, you know, all the gear's good, you know, Hans device, everything he needed. And he's like, man, he's like, we can only rebuild these engines so many times. He's like, so we're coming due on a rebuild. So I'm like, well, I'll do an engine. What are we doing? Mm-hmm. So he starts giving me the options. You know, they had one, like, he could rebuild the one he's got. He could buy a new one of the one that they got, and then there's the animal motor. And I'm like, let's do the animal, man. I said, the kid's driving, and he's winning.
Yeah.
He's doing great. The kid won the championship.
Yeah, let's keep it going.
The season before.
Yeah.
I said, he already knows how to drive. I said, so let's give him what he needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's cool.
So
you know,
we did it. He did great. I got in the other room here. I got the side panel off the car. We were the
nice.
Engine sponsor, so our name was
that's cool.
Big on it, and that wasn't going to do anything for us in Southern Illinois.
No,
I mean, I wasn't worried about that, but it's cool now because I get that piece forever.
Yeah,
it's come
absolutely.
with me, and I know that I helped ignite or at least keep that flame going for my little cousin.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he did great, and now they're working on moving into junior dragsters.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And junior dragsters is where it's at, man.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, some of the most competitive racing that we were ever involved in was in junior drag racing. You know, we traveled all over the Midwest. We didn't really get to go, super far, but Dad had a big enough budget to get us in the Midwest and race all around. And, some of the best racing, some days you got it, some days you don't, and it was cool. But man, we would go to Cordova for their junior nationals, and on that Saturday after racing, they would have the biggest water balloon fight ever, right? Kids would prepare for that shit, dude. They would bring we would bring water balloons. We had, slingshots, water guns. My dad had fire extinguishers. We were filling them up with water, and and like my brothers grew up playing baseball. We all grew up, so like they would come up by our pit area, man, and like the track officials came up. They're like, "You guys can't throw water balloons anymore. Like, you guys are hurting kids." All right, my bad, So but man, it was a blast, dude. Like, and you're talking hundreds of kids out there throwing water balloons at each other, and then the next day, you guys are yucking it up that night, and the next day they're cutting 00 lights on you, and you're like, God damn it, man, that little kid hit me with a water balloon, and now he put me on a trailer. You know what I mean? It's just like junior drag racing was cutthroat, but it was awesome, right? It was the basis of it. It's so basic. My dad didn't have a lot of money, but we had a junior dragster, and we showed up with what we had. And we were proud of it.
And you had a lot of fun.
We had a ton of fun, man. Me and my brothers still get together, hang out, even when and we talk about junior drag racing. Like it's the best, man. And I think, what we try to do now is we try to capture that again, and we just haven't been able to do it, but we're all three of us now are in different parts of our life, right? So we're trying to get back to that. And I feel like we will, but yeah. So
yeah. Even just the cruising side of things, and you said Jake's into just cruising.
Oh yeah, Jake loves it, man.
Because, for me, my daughter's only 11 months old.
Yeah.
But this season, mom works weekends.
Mm-hmm.
Dad's got the baby.
Yep.
Man, she's coming out with me all over the place.
You'd be surprised what car seat fits in, right? Like it fits right in there. Yeah.
Yep. If I can strap it in the car.
Absolutely, it's going in there.
And so far, she enjoys it.
Yeah.
And, she's going to be raised. I mean, she's got no choice. She's going to be raised around cars. And whatever she wants to do, I'm all for it. And I'm going to be that dad.
Yeah.
Whatever she ends up into. But she's going to be around cars. She's going to know how to at least take care of her own car.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm going to make sure that she's not able to go anywhere where somebody can pull the wool over her eyes and take advantage of her financially.
Yes.
To have her car fixed or anything
Absolutely.
like that. I don't want her to be backed into a corner.
Yep.
On, a bunch of stuff. Somebody's going to make up a bunch of stuff that doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to look at them and say, no bullshit.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So, but I'm hoping that, in those travels to shows and to events and stuff that she gets to be involved with it and she has fun with it. And I hope that she looks back just like me with the shows that we used to travel to when I was growing up. And some of my core memories, all of my core memories involve a car.
Absolutely.
And so for her, hopefully she can look back at all of that and still say, those were like the best times growing up.
Yeah.
Being around those cars.
Yeah, and it will, because it is for us. We still like I said, we get together and we still like, man, Dad didn't have much, but we got to do that and it was awesome and we had a blast. And even he still, I go hang out with him and he's like, yeah, I miss junior drag racing. Like, yeah, it was a good time, Dad. It was a good time. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, raising kids in car culture, man, is the best. I remember, our enclosed trailer, Jake was 4 years old. We're racing cars and he's playing with his high wheel cars at the track at 66 or at 41, like wherever we were at, we tried to push him to go to junior dragsters, right? Because we still had one of the junior dragsters. I was like, it's old, it's really outdated, but if he likes it, then I'll invest, and I'm cool with it. He didn't like it, and I was like, man, and then I pushed him into baseball, and he did it for Dad, and then he didn't really like it, and he starts doing his own thing, and now he's bigger into wrestling, right? Wrestling's life for him. But he's coming back to all that stuff, right? And once he turned 14, man, cars was all he talked about. Once he started playing, and we talk crap about this stuff, but once he started playing video games, and once he started playing Need for Speed and all this stuff, and his cousins got to be about that age, and they're all playing video games and Grand Theft Auto. Like my boy plays Grand Theft Auto to build cars. That's what he does. He plays Forza 5 to build cars. Hell, he plays Farm Simulator now to build trucks, right? That's what he does.
I just downloaded that.
Yeah, he does it to build dualies. Yeah, right. But man, they come back to it, man. Even as a dad who's done it, right? Like the way I look at it is, even if you push them and they don't like it, like go ahead, back off, because if you keep doing it, they're gonna come back to it.
Absolutely.
And he loves it now. Like he's ready to go cruising every day. His car wasn't ready Sunday for Cars and Coffee, and he's mad about it. But we were out there Saturday working on it. We just didn't get it done. But yeah, like he loves it, man. And I don't. sometimes his mom's like, yeah, I think he loves it more in sports. I'm like, I think sometimes he does, like, and it's cool, we get to hang out and do that stuff. And, yeah, it's awesome. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to be fine. Yeah. Your little girl's going to be fine. So.
I mean, we started her off right. We did the little car for her.
Yeah, the car's cool, man. I love seeing that thing crawling, going through the square. I love it, man. It's awesome.
We're starting to do more of them now.
Yeah.
And, people want them.
People love stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome. I would love to do a Power Wheels drag race on the square, like on Skylar. I'd love to do it. I've talked about it. I think it would be cool to have a Power Wheels drag race right down the center of Skylar, and maybe throw some festival in the parking lot or something. And,
cool. I remember growing up, they did the Power Wheels drags and the big wheels.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that going on. Yeah. I grew up in Oak Lawn, and that was a big thing. They used to do it. Like, I think the Oak Lawn Park District put that on.
Really?
And that was cool. There were a lot of kids that did that.
Yeah. It's pretty cool stuff, right?
Stuff
like now, I mean, the Power Wheel drag race and stuff, man, is getting out of hand. I don't know if you've been following any of that stuff.
No.
Oh my God, dude, these guys are putting lithium batteries in there. I mean, kids are pulling wheelies now. Like, oh man, it's crazy. The Power Wheel drag, they have like their own sanction now.
Using technology to their advantage
man,
now.
You can buy aftermarket motors now for them. Besides stealing them out of your RC cars and hopping them up like we used to do back in the day. But yeah, you can buy legit Power Wheels hop up parts now, and it's awesome. Yeah,
that's so cool.
It is awesome.
Yeah. Another core memory for me, man. I had a Power Wheel when I was a kid, and it was a little Volkswagen Beetle.
Yeah.
And them things, they had a little battery, and they didn't go very fast or nothing.
Enough. Yeah.
And Dad's like, no, this thing, more power.
Yeah.
And so wired it up, put a car battery in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that thing, I spun the rubber treads off the center of the tires, and it chewed through the tires. And I mean, I just used to do donuts and all sorts of stuff with it. And I remember one time, like, it got so hot, like it melted the wiring under the hood. Like, so I had my first car fire at like 3 years old. So you got to get that one out of the way early, and then it doesn't bother you anymore. And my aunt, they were big into a lot of the drag racing stuff. They ran an alcohol small block funny car.
Yeah.
At the time, that car was the fastest alcohol small block in the Midwest.
Nice.
And so it was cool to be around that. And there's pictures of me in that thing. But one of their guys that they dealt with for wiring, he rewired that whole car and heavier gauge, everything we needed, and that was cool, man. I mean, I kept that thing and drove that until I didn't fit in it anymore, because it was just cool.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do that for her.
Sure.
You
definitely should. And that's the thing. Like, I think people forget. Like, don't raise your kid any different than you were raised. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
Like, there's some things you should change.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you had a lot of good times when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, I had a blast.
Just do the same thing.
Yep. And it put me right where I am.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just make sure they don't do anything stupid. Keep them focused. School's still important. And go at it, man. It's not. I feel like for us, like when we raised Jake, it was more quality over quantity, right? Like we talked about having more kids and talked about it, but now we're just like, yeah, we have Jake. He's awesome. He runs the cruise night some nights for me. I don't even, he does it all. Like, the kid's a good kid. He came out great. That's all we wanted. We wanted one good kid, but yeah, the kids love cars. They definitely do, man. Like, you can't keep, if you just instill it in them, right? If you just show them like how cool they can be, right? And they're like, oh yeah, that's what I'm going to do the rest. That's it.
Oh, and it's in there, dude. How many times have you driven around in your car
and
there's a group of kids? They might not be in a car family, anything like that.
Yeah.
And that little group of kids playing baseball at the park
or
riding their bike
they're
down the
gonna
sidewalk,
stop.
they stop and they give you a thumbs up.
Absolutely.
And they know what cool is.
Yeah, they definitely do. Yeah, they know what it is. And that's the thing, man. We just keep doing that. We can't let that stuff die. So like you were talking about with the mentoring stuff. So like for me, it's like, what do we got to do? I'm ready to do whatever. If somebody comes up with more ideas, I'm probably in. You don't even gotta ask. Just like, hey, we did this, we're putting you on it. Okay, I'm in. What can I do? Because I really just want to make our area, the I kind of call it like the Quad City area, Kankakee, Bourbonnais, Bradley, throw Mantino in there. They're so close to each other. To me, it's all one area, and if we can make this area what Frankfurt is, when it comes to car stuff, they got Dukes now out there. If we can keep our stuff as big as theirs, like, oh man, I think we're doing something, because we don't have nowhere near the population. But I'll tell you what, man, I drive around more and more around town, man. I see more and more cars driving, more and more hot rods being built, and it's just like, maybe we're part of that. I don't know. Maybe we're part of that. Maybe we pitched into that. Maybe having cruise night and making a big deal about it, and doing some other stuff is really working. So
I think it's working.
Yeah.
For sure. And honestly, everybody that comes out to cruise this way, whether they they come out to the Mantino Cruise Night, or they come down to your cruise night, they go see Zach and Nicole.
Yeah.
It's nice driving out here.
Oh, dude, there's some cool. The river's beautiful, right?
Yep.
Like, there are so many parts of the river you can cruise. There's so many roads that just follow the river, and you can take them. You can take one of them almost to St. Anne, from Kankakee. You can take the other one out to Wilmington, and then you got Route 66 right there, right? You got the big giant guy right there. You can go right off of, Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful around here. The state parks are beautiful. The state park's gorgeous. Yeah, there's a lot of cool driving. We got a lot of city area. The downtown's nice in Kankakee. A couple areas are really cool. Broadway's. Broadway used to be really cool. That's where we used to cruise. And Broadway's not as cool anymore. But it used to be. In Route 50. 45. It's. I mean, Bourbonnais is a college town, right? And you're cruising past Dairy Queen, all that stuff's pretty cool. It's a big circle. You can just go in a big ass circle from 45 to 50. And you can really, like you said, that's really cool driving. Come up to Mantino. There's really cool stuff this way. There's so much stuff, man.
And it never gets really congested, which is
no,
cool.
Never.
Anytime I gotta go up north of I-80.
Yeah, right.
It's just everything's so crowded up there. And like, we were in Mokina for a long time, and family in New Lenox, and early on, I had a shop in New Lenox for a little while. Tried this whole thing once, and I spent more time screwing around than actually working. And
right.
But you got to learn, and you learned everything you did wrong, and
absolutely.
We're back here now. But that whole area now, from then, it's changed so much. It's so busy. It's so congested. There's so many people, and for how many people are out there, cruise nights up that way aren't as good as they should be.
Yeah, you would think. I haven't been up to a couple. Everybody keeps telling me I need to go to New Lenox, the Cars and Coffee at New Lenox. I heard
that is a very good one.
Yeah, so I'm going to try to make it up to one or two of those this year. But yeah, I mean, we get so many guys who come from up north. It's really cool. We just had a guy from Frankfurt come down with that. I think he was gone before you got there, but he had that '66 Oldsmobile, and with the twin turbo LS in it. I mean, that thing was rowdy, man. You had a trailer hitch on it, so I'm sure he drag and drives it. Like, thing was rowdy. When it came, as soon as it came down, into the depot, you could just hear it. You're like, man, what is that? Oh, it was cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. And that dude came from Frankfurt for our little 2-hour, morning show. But yeah, I mean, I would really love our Cars and Coffee to be as big as New Lenox.
Yeah. Kind of
have that vibe. Yeah, it's a cool little spot. I think the depot is a really cool backdrop. When the fountain's on, it's really cool. So hopefully for the September one, the fountain will be on. And then we use Big Fellas for VIP, our VIP lounge for everything. That's kind of what I tell Brian. Me and Brian are actually neighbors. I don't know if you know, we're like two blocks away from each other. So we hang out at each other's houses all the time. We drink a lot of bourbon together. He's kind of got me onto some bourbon, him and my wife. But yeah, like the Big Fellas, their trailer fits the vibe. I really care about my vibe. Like, I get all these people who are like, oh, can I come set my trailer up there and sell this and stuff? No, this is about cars.
Yep.
If it doesn't fit the vibe, if it doesn't fit what we're trying to do, something that goes with it, then I don't want to do it. We got this new vendor coming. It's like a dirty soda truck, but it's made out of a VW bus.
Cool.
Oh man, it's cool. Top raises up, and they serve sodas and lemonade out of it. I'm just like, man, it's like an old Route 66 stop, and they got like different old candy you can't get. I'm just like, this is cool. Like, see, that fits the vibe. That's what we want, But yeah, the vibe is important, right? And to me, my brother told me a couple years ago, he's like, dude, you're not throwing a cruise night, you're not throwing a car show. He's like, you throw a party and then you invite your car buddies, and that's really what it is, right? We got good music, our acoustic guys come out and play, man, they jam, they love it. The streets are open, and when we block those streets off, you can get some adult beverages. We got the wine bar and a couple of the other bars there, and like everybody just hangs out. You don't even have to like cars. There's something there for you, my wife loves that she can come there and get a wine slushie and walk around and hang out. She's like, oh, it's not just car, and then it's local, so all our friends are that, she sees a ton of people she knows, she loves it, But yeah, I mean, the vibe is all we care about. Like, how can we make the vibe stay true to car culture, right? And I think when you do that, I think that people see that, right? Like, as long as car people can be car people, right? We just ask for one night a month. Yep. Let us be car people, And the city's really good about it. They don't bring the cops in there right away and shut us down or kick us out. As long as we open the road up by 8:30, they don't care if you move into the parking lot and hang out there till midnight. They don't care. They're pretty cool about it. Just don't do anything stupid, but for the most part, man, the vibe is awesome. And I think my goals for that, would I say that I want to compete with Morris? I think Morris is a big show, and it's really located where it needs to be, and their downtown is much more vast than Kankakee, right? So it kind of fits. But man, I would love to try to compete. I would love to see, like I said before, the city is on board. The city's like, we'll block off whatever roads we need to block off in the downtown. We'll figure it out.
Well, and Morris is great. I'm not taking anything away from that. But that's years of building to what.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
I think you're laying the groundwork now.
Yeah, we're trying
to be very, very competitive.
We're trying. And we're trying some different things. We're trying to reach out to some other. I'd love to get some more car clubs involved. Like, get them down there and be like, hey, what does it take? I'd love to. What I would really love to do? I would really love to have a cackle fest in downtown Kankakee. I think it would be awesome.
Yep.
I just don't know who to get a hold of. I think it would be cool if I could set that up.
I can get you in touch with a couple people.
Yeah, send me some phone numbers. I would really love to do that, and I think I can get enough sponsors to make that happen, and I think that'd be really cool.
A couple of nitro cars.
I don't know. Do you know Dan Mullins at all?
I don't.
Dan Mullins used to have a front engine digger, right? And he actually brought it up to one of the cruise nights, and we got a really cool picture with the lights in the downtown. He's driving it back to the trailer. I'll have to send you that picture. It's super cool. That car is beautiful.
I could try to get you in touch with Mike Taylor.
Okay.
And Bob Malloy.
All right. Yeah, definitely.
And, even I know Bob does a lot of that with his, a lot of going out and actually, the car. They do race the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a lot cheaper to take the car out and just fire it up and let it.
That's it, man. I would love that, dude.
And then you're not tearing the thing up.
You're not tearing it up.
So
and people are still happy. I would love it if I could get 3 or 4 of them out there and just do a cackle. I would.
And again, bring the kids.
Yeah.
As soon as those kids are there, their eyes are watering and stuff from that nitro. They get hooked.
Yeah, I'll promote the mess out of it, man. It'll be all over the place. And that's like that's the stuff that I look at. Like, what can I do, next to make the cruise night bigger? Because if it's the same every day, if it starts to become very monotonous and stuff like that, like I'm done. I'll be out. Because I have to strive every day to be better, right? Even with the cruise night, even everything I do. If I can't figure out a way to keep going bigger or better, then that's when the challenge is gone, right? So I'll move on to what's next. Yeah. I'll find something else to do next. And that's the stuff that gets to me right now, right? It's like, how can I keep going, and how can I make our cruise night something that people who are 45 minutes north from here go, man, we got to get down. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all I want. And I just want you to come down there and be like, man, we come down there one night, it was a good night. There's a really cool YouTube video of a guy who came in from England, and hang out with Rusty and those guys. He had some Johnny's Pizza, and he's like, man, this might be the best pizza I've ever had. And we kind of showed him, what American Cruise Night was about, and he was really about it,
I followed him after that.
Yeah.
I saw Max was just out there visiting.
Yeah, Max was just out there.
So that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
How you got friends across the pond.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. And I showed that video with everybody in the city, in downtown. I was like, listen, like, this guy literally came from overseas, had your pizza, and then he loves it, Like, like, this is what we're doing for you guys. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the city area so good, you know.
Gone international.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and he loved it. And that was our worst cruise night of the year, right? It was October. It was cold. You know, if he would have just been there a month earlier, he would have saw.
When's he coming back?
He's coming back soon. I know. I talked to Rusty because we were trying to plan, you know, that other event that I was talking about earlier around that, so that maybe he could be there, take some footage, you know, or ride around with Max a little bit. But I think it's coming up soon. I know Rusty usually has his little shop get together in August, I think. So it's got to be coming up soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can put something together with him because the last cruise night that you were working on, I know the weather didn't hold out.
Yeah, the weather sucked,
screwed
man.
Everything up.
Yeah.
But you know, we put together a group
Yeah.
and ran the red carpet corridor that morning, which was cool because I haven't done that since 2018.
Yeah.
And I only did a couple of stops that first year, anyways, and we made it to a car show, and just that was it. We were there for the day, and I had fun.
Mm-hmm.
But I always said, man, I want to get back out and do the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you know, not all the way to California, but
Right.
you know, for our area, it's
Yeah.
Joliet to Bloomington.
Right.
There's 15 stops,
Yeah.
and they got a lot going on. And so called up a couple customers, you know, and then my brother, you know,
Yeah.
he's always down to cruise
Yeah.
anywhere, and you know, he's got plenty of cars to choose from.
Yeah.
So round up a couple of customers and some friends, and you know, we all meet up, and we all met up out by Route 66 at the gas station up there,
Nice.
and started at the museum in Joliet, 66 Museum, and
Yeah.
we started running along, and I think I was probably in Braidwood about the time you called me.
Mm-hmm.
Braidwood or Godley, I was somewhere down there, and about the time you called, and you're like, man, I think we're gonna call it, you know, and I'm like, all right. I said, I can fully understand it. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so that next stop, you know, I told everybody, I said, well, Anthony called, and they're not going to do the cruise night tonight. And but everybody was ready. We were all going to, you know,
Yeah.
pretty much wherever we made it to, and figured out what time we needed to leave
To get back.
to make it to you guys
Yeah.
was going to be our plan. And I mean, it worked out. Ended up being
Yeah.
a great night. We ended up going all the way to Bloomington.
Nice.
We didn't think we were going to make it that far.
Yeah.
But putting something together like that again,
Yes.
doing some sort of a purpose cruise, even if it's just, you know,
Yes.
our group, we pick some spots,
Yeah.
pick some places to stop, and just cruise. I mean, that was,
Yeah.
you know, when we deadheaded from Bloomington to my house, it was like 118 miles,
Yeah.
you know, and
Yeah.
I can't tell you the last time I drove that far in my fleet line, like one shot.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a good time.
No, that's cool.
So-
That's cool. Yeah, I kind of always had this idea too about doing like you know, like getting with the city and like maybe the visitors bureau and stuff like that, and like trying to do like an actual like cruising day, like where, you know, some shops and stuff will set up different stuff and like actual like targets for us to hit all day. You know, doesn't
cool.
necessarily have to be like a power tour, but like let's call it 30, 40 different stops, you know, in the community, you know, where like it's just National Cruising Day, right? Like we're gonna go there, you know, they're gonna have a sale on this, or you know, you're gonna be able to, you know, get a hot dog here for $1 or whatever it is, you know, like it doesn't matter. And then maybe there's some big lunch spot where everybody meets up and there's a party there for a little bit, you know, but like just to have the town, everybody in the area cruising again, like doing something, I think would be kind of cool, kind of spark some stuff, you know, and then like really involve the city, not just be like, oh, we're going to cruise around and we don't want nobody to see us. No, I want everybody to see us, you know, like I want everybody to see the cars.
And there's so many people around all of us that
yeah,
have something to cruise now.
yeah,
Everybody's kind of been working in the shadows for a few years on like putting something together.
yeah,
And I mean, this seems like a year everybody wants to get out.
yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
like everybody talks about it every year. And
Yep.
But this year's already proved. I mean, the weather hasn't been great.
No,
It's still been
yeah.
kind of cold. Everybody's still finding an excuse to get out and cruise
Yep.
this year. And, you know, this weekend, you know, this past weekend was great. You know,
Yeah, it was
we came out by
beautiful
you
weather.
guys. We got there
Yeah.
a little later than I planned because
Yeah,
a little, you know, getting cars started for the day and moving things and getting everything out.
Yeah.
Should have done that the night before, but it was great. We did that. We hit another show on the way back, and you know,
yeah,
cruise over and get some food,
yeah,
head back to the shop, and that's just it was a worry-free day.
yeah.
Got to get out in the car, put some miles on it, you know, burn a half a tank of gas out
Right,
of it,
and
have a good
enjoy
time.
enjoy everybody, right? You get to see everybody,
Yep.
hang out. Got some buddies here, got some buddies there, you know, and you get to enjoy the car. Yeah, that's the best, you know. After you guys left, I sat down with Brian and them at the lounge, and we hung out right there. We didn't clean up till almost 2 o'clock.
That's awesome.
Brian was like, "Man, it's beautiful out here." I'm like, "Yeah."
Not a care in the world.
Yeah, nothing to do. It was awesome, man. And if we would have had a car, we probably would have went to Phillips. If one of our cars would have been ready, we probably went to Phillips. And that show was awesome from what I hear. Like I heard it was pretty great turnout. And I think that says something about car culture, right, in the area for us, is that we can have 2 shows on the same day, have good enough turnouts to make everybody happy.
Yep.
Like, what more do you want? That means we're starting to really build the cars back up. And in fact, I know 3 or 4 guys who were at the Cars and Coffee who didn't even know about the Phillips show, who went to there, from us to go there, hang out, and I think, I had talked about a couple of years ago about all the guys in the area who put shows on, or who are promoters, or who are into maybe even doing a show, about kind of getting together and putting like a meeting of the minds together, right? So we, almost like a round table. How do we help each other out? What can we do? Here's your date, here's my dates. How do we help promote each other? And I think that's something I might get back to this year. I might really try to plan that in the off season.
Yeah.
Even if it's at somebody's shop or whatever, we just get together, kind of pitch our ideas. How can maybe we can all collab on an idea, come up with something, but man, I just think we have so much potential to do so much car stuff here,
Absolutely.
that I'm not saying we should never travel, but if we can, have enough to have a great summer here.
And get everybody to come here.
Yes. Yeah. We got a lot to offer.
Yep.
We got a ton to offer. People think sometimes we don't, but I think we do. I think the downtown Kankakee's cool. I think the Bourbonnais, the Grove, I think that's really cool. The river stuff is really cool. Like, we got a lot of stuff going on. We got some, some cool restaurants here that a lot of people, we got really good pizza in the area.
A lot of good food.
Yeah. And it's quiet, for the most part. The streets aren't crowded. Like you said, like, it's not overly packed. It's not like trying to get through Orland Park at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, just standstill traffic. Wait at the same stoplight 4 times.
Yeah, and then you can get on a country road and get to a cool little city in 20 minutes, or 15 minutes, and I think that's one of the cool parts about this area. You got cool little cities that are 15 minutes from here. That cruise out to Aroma Park is really cool from Kankakee. That's a fun cruise, and go up and around the river. Take that out Eagle Island Road and up to 17 and back down. Like, there's so much stuff you can do, man. But yeah, I mean, I would love to throw that, to really put that on, to kind of get everybody together and let's say, hey, let's get together, let's make this happen, and then we can help each other, right? We can make sure that we're not organizing stuff on different days, or maybe your show's not going to start till 3. So if I did throw a Cars and Coffee that ended at 12, man, this would be great. We can help each other out, and now everybody's got a whole day. I feel like sometimes I try to reach out to people to do that stuff, and at first I think they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, like, there's been times where, like, my cruise night has been on, like, the big Mustang show at Perry Farm, and I think that those guys are just so used to just doing their thing, like, I was like, man, I would love to have Mustang night at the cruise night that night. If I do that, maybe I can get some of these guys come down here, they'll get a hotel room and they'll stay the whole weekend, like, I think it'd be awesome, but at that point I was still, very, very young at this, I guess, like, maybe I wasn't somebody at that time, but now I think maybe I got enough clout now that those guys will listen when I talk to them.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But yeah, like, I'm always up for doing stuff like that, and all I want to do is like just ask me, or but also at the same time, like, when we're event planners, don't get upset with me if I don't agree with your idea, because you may see it one way and I may see it a different way.
Well, and we've talked about it before, and like you said, it's one thing, you want to be competitive.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
But networking,
it's huge.
And a little friendly competition amongst other promoters and other events and stuff like that. Obviously, individually, everybody wants to throw the best event.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, I mean, we network with a ton of shops.
Mm-hmm.
And, whether it's just a phone call, say, hey, dude, I'm having trouble with this. What the hell am I doing wrong? Or they call us. It's the same thing. Or we're trading work back and forth. Or we're going to events together.
Yep.
We see each other at different events, and we stop and we talk. We trade work back and forth. I can't keep up on enough time on this. I send it over to somebody else. They can't do it. They send it over to me. Doing that type of work, you're still going to be competitive. You still
Absolutely.
want to be able to say that you did it better than them,
Absolutely.
or they want to do it better than you did,
But you're still helping out.
but you're going to help them out.
Yep.
Everybody's growing at the same time.
Absolutely.
When you get to a certain, you try to strive to get to a certain level where, let's all work together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's all promote this
Yeah.
whole thing together. And, I'm still going to throw a better event. But, and that's,
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
keeping the competitive edge,
Yeah.
it keeps you thinking.
Yeah.
So you're constantly
Absolutely.
doing something fresh every
Yep.
time, but working together to cross-advertise it, because yours is not the same weekend as this one's not the same weekend as that one. So you guys work together, and it
Absolutely.
gives you somewhere to cruise on the weekends you're not hosting.
Absolutely. Because
One.
I tell you what,
somewhere to cruise when they're not.
when you become a guy who throws events a lot, right? Because I've always had that attitude, right? Like, and I've told you this before. If you hear me speak up and complain about something, I'm ready to take it over,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I'm ready to say, like, I'm waiting for you to say, all right, then you do it. Okay, I'm gonna do it. Like, I'm gonna take it over. So get out of the way and watch me make it better. So it's nice as a promoter of events or something who finally to see somebody who actually throws an event that I want to go to. Because it's like, man, I didn't have to throw this one. Another thing that we used to do, and we kind of got away from it. I told you I was pretty good buddies with Brian Stevenson. He's a big drag racer. He used to own a bar, and we used to throw like the porta tree shootouts. Right, we'd get the porta tree set up. People would come in, and we'd all bet $5-10 on them. We'd throw it all in the hat, and we'd set the porta tree up, and you just go at each other, man. That was what we did in the wintertime. We didn't get a chance to do it this year because I was traveling a lot with Jake, and he was going really far in wrestling and stuff like that. So it got really hard to plan that stuff. But man, we did it with the Gibsons and those guys, and man, before you know it, man, we have 40-50 guys are showing up a night, and pots are getting like $1,000,
Awesome.
for porta tree shootouts, and it all started. Me and my brothers were drinking in my garage, and we're like, we got a practice tree. Brian's got a practice tree. Bring your ass over here. Let's do this. We got some beer. Let's have some fun. And then
beers, talk a little smack.
yeah, and then the Gibsons heard about us talking about it, and they're like, dude, let's do this at our bar, and that's where it started. Was at Westside Tavern, and we did it over there for a little bit, and then Brian bought that bar out in Shabanson, and we started doing it over there for a while, and then we were like, man, we could throw a big one of these. We could really plan this out and throw, a $5,000 to win porta tree shootout. And then before you know it, you start seeing them all over now. They're all over now. They're everywhere,
Flooded the market.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's totally cool. But, we get buddies we bracket race who go to those things and do really good, So it's pretty cool. One of our nephews went to one of them, and I think he got like 7th place or something out of like 400 kids, right? Like, he's like, dang,
Awesome.
yeah. So it was a good time, but yeah, and I'm always about collabing, and competing and trying to do better stuff, and I love to throw events. That's one of my favorite things. So if people come and be like, hey, let's throw an event, okay, but what are we gonna do? Like, how is this gonna be better? Let's not throw somebody else's event just at your place. That's
Just
yeah. Did you do some work? Like, did you figure something out? Maybe you got some better idea than I do. I'm about hearing about it.
Well, and you got a big advantage where you're at. The backdrop's great.
Oh, the downtown's
it's
awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're always doing something to keep it up.
Yep.
Make some changes and keep making it nicer and nicer. You know. And I'm not from the area, so I don't know what it was like, but it looks like they've been doing a lot of work.
Yeah, there's a lot of work going downtown. And I know there's some new things coming up and some other stuff. And even now the downtown's moving over to like, what is that, East Avenue over there, where like Derek's got splitting targets over there. And like Stafari and Tiny Tap is over there. And that they're really starting to clean that area up. So yeah, the downtown's growing. I know they really want to get like some living down there, some apartments down there so that people can actually live and work in the downtown, and that'll really expand the downtown. I know you got the river walk coming, and they want to expand down to the river, which is about 3 more blocks south, so like if at some point that downtown does grow, down to the river and into the Schuyler Bridge, it's kind of a nice bridge, and like it's got a really cool feel, you're just cruising up and down Schuyler. I think that'll be really cool. I think they had some dreams to put some food truck stuff there. There was a lot there that they really cleaned up and flattened and wanted to make a food truck lot there. And I think that kind of went to the wayside with the Riverwalk thing, but they started construction on it. And I didn't see, I'd have to get a hold of Bianca and find out, like when's the opening day of the Riverwalk. I didn't really look into that, but I know it's happening. Like they're really trying to push some stuff.
That's a good place to be then, because
Yeah.
You're growing now.
Yep.
And as that all finishes out,
Yeah.
it's just going to draw more people in.
Yeah.
And your event is just one more thing for people to come and
Right.
hang at.
Exactly. And that's why we like it. Like I love the downtown. I think that's the best way to have a cruise night, right? Because you can't tell me that I love, hanging out during the day and stuff like that, but cars look good at night.
Yeah.
When you see car under street lights, or the new, it's like this new downtown thing to do to put lights across the roads and stuff like that. Oh man, I only want to see paint at night. That's my favorite places. It's my favorite time to see it. We'd rather drag race at night than during the day. Like it just, cars look so much better at night. And so and I think that's why like the May show and the October show are my favorite, because that's 7 o'clock, it's dark and the cars look good at 8, 9, 8:30 sitting on the street. The downtown has been awesome to us, and the city's behind us 100%. Like I cannot stress how awesome the city's been. They as soon as I give them an idea or tell them what I'm going to do, they don't even get in my way. It's just like, hey, you need to block this street off, you need to do this, get these, get with this person, make this happen, or I want to spend this money. They're like, okay, make it happen. Awesome. It's awesome, and the cruise night's been, it completely pays for itself, and they don't have to worry about, they just help me manage the finances and everything's good to go. So, all I want to do is bigger and better. Like that's it. Like every year I want to do bigger and better, and I'll be honest, a lot of the sponsors that I have, I don't even go out looking for them. They're all my buddies. Like they're all my buddies who are like, yeah, we'll give you some money. And now it's getting so big, people come to me now. Like I'd make one post on the Facebook page that's, hey, if you want to sponsor this year, this is who you get a hold of me and we'll figure it out. But that's it. I think the show speaks for itself. It's really starting to get to that point where it's starting to become, it's starting to gain some attention, and people like it, and to me too, not only do I want to bring so many cars, but I want to bring patrons, right? I want to make sure, that we got people who are walking around enjoying the vibe that we set, not just people who brought their cars,
They're going to come spend money with the restaurants.
Yes.
They're going to come spend money with the vendors.
Right. Because that's what makes the city happy, right? If I can put people on the street spending money, that makes them happy too. Then it allows us car guys to be able to do what we want to do. So I'm cool with that trade. I understand it. I'm cool with it. So we work at it a little bit. Like ideally, I would like to have no other vendors. I would really love the downtown to sustain itself through the cruise night, right? To have so many, stores and stuff like that. And we've even talked about that, like with the city. Their goal at some point is to make sure that like most of those stores and stuff down there are all eateries and and wineries and stuff like that, so that at some point, like when you bring an event down there, you don't even have to have food trucks or stuff like that, because the downtown itself is servicing the downtown, and that was kind of the goal from the beginning. We wanted the pizza place to make all its money, we wanted the wine place to make all the money, we wanted, that's a funny story. So when we pitched it to put it on the street right there, that was when it was Grapes and Hops. He had came to me and he had said, I'll be honest, I think it's a cool idea. He said, but I don't think that, that crowd is going to buy wine from me. Right. I said, that's cool. I just want you, to back us up and let's see if we can make this happen. We think it could grow and it'll be big. Right. The very first cruise night, he's calling me on my phone. Can you stay out there till 10? Because I'm selling more wine than anybody. Like, and I try to tell people, like we may look like we're poor, but we got money. Like, we're ready to spend money. There's $80,000, $90,000 cars out there. Those guys have money. They're going to spend money. Their wives want shit. They're going to get it for them, so that they can stay here and hang out with their buddies longer. And they were so stoked. Johnny's Pizza was packed by 6 o'clock. He had to shut it down because he couldn't keep up. He had so many pizza orders, and it's, No Dogs was happy, like all the other places, and that's why we want to start moving up the street so we can get all the other vendors that are up there. There's a really cool jazz lounge up there that I think is going to be awesome. Their front windows open up and they can like enjoy the whole thing. There's another bar too up there that I think would be really just beneficial, and it would be so cool to stand on that hill on Court Street and just look down at a sea of cars. Like, it'd be awesome. Yeah, so
just flooded with
just flooded with cars everywhere. So that was kind of what we were hoping for May, but the weather didn't work out. Because I'll be honest, if it would have been beautiful, that place would have been packed.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, so we'll hope for June. See how it goes.
And what are the dates?
June 7th, July 5th, August 2nd, September 6th, and October 4th.